Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, everybody.
Good talk.
How's it going?
We should get some more microphones up here. Is this purple one facing the wrong direction?
I think there's one facing to you and there's one facing to us.
Questions.
So yeah, I think they're assuming we're going to ask them at some point. Starting with, how does it feel to be here at the London MCM Comic Con? Are you enjoying meeting fans here, taking part and stuff like this?
Oh,
Awesome.
yeah,
we
for
came
sure.
last year and had so much fun and met so many kind of amazing fans, and I think you lose sight of like who the show reaches out to when all you do is shoot it. We shoot for 10 months out of the year. And coming last year, I think, was really special because we got to meet so many fans from all over the world who the show really has an impact kind of on their lives, and them, inviting us into their homes for 185 episodes, and kind of the role the show plays in the family dynamic and watching it together. I think that was a really special thing for both of us.
Yeah. And also, it's interesting, too, because I...
Oh, you got it!
For those who couldn't see... No, I'm okay. You're such a gentleman. For those of you who didn't see what just happened, we've been complaining about a drip of water on the ceiling, and now one just fell on me. We're guilty!
All part of my master plan.
In Europe, the generation, I feel like the generations that watch us are a little bit different than in the U.S. I think we have a little bit of a more mature following in the U.S. versus here, which is a younger following. So it's interesting to see the difference in dynamic and the people that come to Comic-Con. There are lots of people that fly from different countries to come and see us, and I think the whole organization is so impressive. There was over 130,000 people last year in 2 days. It's just incredible. And to be able to, it's actually really difficult because people pay to be here and they fly in to see you, and you want to give everybody enough time to be like, hi, what's your name? What brings you here? And it's difficult when you have a whole line of people and they're kind of like, you gotta go, otherwise you're not going to get through everybody who's, paid for a ticket. And yeah, I love it. I love meeting the fans face to face. It's the only opportunity we have is things like this.
As part of your characters on NCIS, how much do you get to input into the characters and the skills that they have?
Hold on.
The skills
that you input into the words of your character?
You mean dialogue-wise or character-wise?
Character-wise, dialogue-wise,
well,
either. I mean, for example, you have an episode where you go undercover dancing, which
right.
is a personal skill of yours that you managed to introduce.
Did you have input on that?
It just fell on my nose.
This is so great. It's like the best interview ever. Just the whole time is just you waiting to say something like interesting and then just water dripping. Did you have input? Did you ask for that?
No.
Dancing?
I didn't ask for that. Actually, sometimes the writer's like, what do you think you would like to do? Actually, our showrunner sent us an email saying, like, if there's anything that you guys would like to do in the next season that you haven't done already. I can never think of anything. I'm just always happy when they add little fun things to do, such as the dancing. So yes, it was a skill that I already had. So, not in salsa dancing though, but yeah, it was just really fun to do. It was actually supposed to be done earlier in the season, but because I was pregnant, I wasn't able to do it, and I thought that they would just have another character do it. So I was really sad that I might not be able to
have
get to
another
dance.
character dance.
Yeah, they could have put Nell in because she's actually also a dancer. She has a dance background as well. I mean, they could have had anybody else in that role.
Anybody but me.
You kind of did dance in that episode
Not
too.
really. I kind of flopped around like a Muppet. That's dancing as much as it's just graceful.
Eric
flopping.
has one signature go-to move.
That move is good though. As far as input goes, I think that part of it is that after 185 episodes, they have an idea of what our strengths are.
Yeah.
And so I think you've seen the evolution of the banter between, Kenzie and Deeks. They definitely write to the comedic elements that we bring to the show. And they're also very open about finding things in the moment, which is that you do one per scripted, has the dialogue written, and then you can try stuff. And some of my favorite kind of reactions and moments in the show are moments in which they weren't it wasn't on the page. One of my favorite scenes still, forever, is after Deeks is tortured and he's going through a period where he's not able to sleep for weeks, and she comes over with Chinese food, and it's this great scene that they played in a two-shot where there's a bunch of like really honest, natural improvisation, and it ended up being one of my favorite scenes. because you find moments that aren't prepared for, and her reactions, she's so good at reacting to those moments that
Especially when he's off camera and says things that he knows will get a reaction off of me, which are unsayable at this time.
yeah.
But here's the cool thing too, is because I think that Eric and I have created a certain dynamic over the last 7 years. Sometimes they'll leave, because what it is, for those who don't know, it's a camera on him, a camera on me, and it's behind us and everything. But when you have certain moments like this one that he's talking about, or during the proposal when Kenzie's in the wheelchair, sometimes you kind of have to have a camera on both of us simultaneously, because the things that you get in the moment are going to be different every single take. One might take you to a more emotional place, a quieter place, whatever it is. And so to get the matching reaction from the other person, you have to ensure that there's a camera on both of you. Otherwise, you have sort of mismatched takes between us. And so, we always know when there's a camera either on both of us or at the same time on each one of us. We always know that that's a moment that him and I get to play more around with, because it's going to cut nicely in editing whenever they do that. So, and about the input too, there was that time where Kenzie's in recovery in season 8. And, she can't walk, and she's going through times where she's depressed, sad, angry, but it's all very negative feelings. And so between us and the director, we kind of felt like we needed a relief from that, something a little bit sweeter between them to show the sort of roller coaster that it is to recover from something like what she was going through. And so we asked our Scott Gemmell, who's our showrunner and one of our writers, and he wrote my whole arc throughout the recovery, and we said, hey, do you think we can get something a little sweet? And so literally over lunchtime he wrote a scene, and we shot it that day. And it just fits so beautifully. And for those who've watched it, it's the scene where they wake up in the hospital, and she's like, I don't want to be here anymore, and he's like, I know, but you have to. And it's just a sweet moment before everything crashes again. And that was written on the day and shot literally a few hours after he wrote it. So there is a degree of input on our part with what happens. And I think the trust that the writers and showrunners show in us, we all know the characters so well now, so I think it's important to have a dialogue with what happens.
That's really a tribute too to, we have a first AD, this guy Eric Pott, who's so good. One of our executive producers, JPK, was directing that episode. Scott Gemmell was our showrunner and also the writer for these whole sequences. Having that discussion, saying, here's our fear, we don't have a moment to emotionally connect to the beauty of this. Obviously it's this tumultuous recovery, but we need a moment of not brevity, but a reason to fight for these two. And then to go off and do that over a lunch, come back and trust to shoot it, is remarkable, especially on a show that's such a well-oiled machine that we're in season 8. For them to go, all right, let's adapt and go try this. I don't know if I've ever been a part of a project that was able to kind of on the fly make those kind of changes, which is amazing, and a tribute to those guys, to Gemmell and JPK and Eric Pott. What is your acting technique? Do you do? Because you said about repetition, and I was thinking of Meisner. How are you, your banter and stuff? What do you do? What's your acting technique, and how do you apply it to your characters?
I can tell you that I studied something specific, but I can also tell you that regardless of what that specific thing is, what I learned most is I don't need a technique unless I need help for any reason and moment, because if you listen, if you act and react, you're going to be in the moment and be in the reality of it, regardless of what the technique is that you've learned or not learned. It doesn't matter if you come from a Shakespeare background or not. If I'm listening genuinely to what he's saying to me in the scene and I react appropriately, you have a real moment. So since we're playing real human beings in, supposedly real situations, that's all we can do.
And I think it also...
The repetition is like the takes, not so much repetition like going back and forth with the word and then,
Yeah, we usually read it once before we do it on camera. I think that also plays into finding moments, because if she's just listening and reacting, when I change, she has to adapt. And that's how you get, these different variances of takes. Otherwise, and there's people that do, everybody's got their own kind of method. Mine was from William H. Macy. One of my first movies ever he was in, and he said, acting is just listening and then telling the truth. And the only time I stop myself, and she sees it, when I'm in a take, where I'm like, that was bullshit. Like I wasn't telling the truth. And I just go back and pick it up until it's the truth. And whatever version of where that character is in his head, even the bad guys tell the truth. in their own minds. So
bad guys don't think they're bad guys. They think they're doing the best for whatever their intentions or objectives are.
So they're still telling the truth.
Yeah.
So no matter what the character is, he's still telling his own version of the truth. Like you do a big broad comedy, like this is the best example of how this works. Like Dumb and Dumber, I did the prequel to that, which is a terrible, broad comedy. But in the mind of Lloyd, who's the Jim Carrey character, he's still telling the truth. Like that's just his viewpoint on the world. And what makes it so funny is he's so committed to being wrong about the world, but that's the way he sees it, right? And that commitment is why you can emotionally connect and go, all right, I'm going to make this ridiculous journey with this character because this is how he views the world, and it's funny to me because he's so wrong, but also so committed. It's kind of like, well, I'm not going to say that.
Are you going to plug another one of your
No, I was going to
movies,
just
or-
talk about politics, but that was a mistake.
Oh.
When you're so wrong with the view of the world, but you're so committed to it, it becomes a parody
Hint.
of
So,
logic.
wondering, so how big is the universe that NCIS and the rest of inhabit? Because we've seen Kenzie head over to Hawaii Five-0. We've seen Hetty visit Scorpion.
Yeah.
And then we've seen that's MacGyver on Hawaii Five-0. So how big is it? And
It's
are
as
you
big
guys
as CBS.
And are you planning any major crossover basically in terms of between the other NCIS? Just generally
You forgot
related?
Michael came to our show as well.
Yeah,
Michael
whether they
Weatherly.
came to our show.
Yeah, I was just about to say that in the past when we've had crossover, it's generally just one or two cast members. I wonder if
Yeah.
you're looking at, say, what the Arrowverse does and has one or two episodes where all, like an entire team goes over somewhere else.
I
We're
think
st-
it's very sorry.
No, we're still exploring the possibility of that. I think
Yeah.
there's a good chance in the next couple of seasons to do an NCIS LA,
Yeah.
NCIS, that kind of, the episode that we all kind of want to do, which
I
is the
think
joining of.
Yeah, but the major thing I think is probably scheduling wise, because it's so tough to schedule. I mean, there's 7 regulars on our show, and there's probably 7 or 8 on their show as well. So to coordinate, 16 actors on 2 different shows, one's on Sunday, one's on Tuesday in the U.S. I think it's more so than anything else. It's a logistical thing, because then you also have 2 showrunners and 2 line producers, and everybody's trying to coordinate all these things. So yeah, but I agree with Eric. I think it's just a matter of time until we do something really cool like that.
I'm going to go do Big Bang. I'm going to bring Deeks to the Big Bang Theory. Maybe Deeks goes to Mom, does a couple episodes of Mom. Is that a show over here? They have Mom over here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's been running for so long. If it did end, God forbid, how would you like to see both your characters' stories wrapped up?
I've never gotten that question before. Good question. I think both of these characters, I can talk about Deeks. I think for Deeks, his journey has been one in which he's searching for, I think, the love that he never got from his dad. And I think he has an interesting relationship with his mom. I think that Hetty has played almost a mother figure to Deeks in helping him kind of figure out who he is. I think the most kind of self-actualization or definition of character has come with the relationship with Kenzie. And so I think that, the obstacles that they've given to these 2 characters and how that has evolved that relationship, I can't see any other ending for Deeks to find happiness but somewhere within that.
Yeah. Just to sort of give you a shorter answer, but very similar to Eric, I think Kenzie is looking for someone to call home. She ran away from home when she was really young. She was really close to her dad. If you guys watch the show, and then obviously he was murdered. And she ran away from home because she never had much of a relationship with her mom. I don't think her mom was a bad person or anything. I think they just didn't connect on any level. And so it's this. Oh, and plus for Kenzie, every man in her life has been killed. It was her dad, it was Dom, her first partner, who was kidnapped and killed, and now Granger. And so there's this fear of proximity with another human being, but at the same time it's this desperation to try and to want to call someone home, no matter where she is. And I think that considering all the obstacles that these 2 have been through together, both them going through it and the other one being a support system and vice versa, she's found home with Deeks, there's no doubt, and I think it would be really, really unfair if they didn't end up together happily married with children or something. Just another drop. In the end, it wouldn't be fair if they didn't end up together, I think. But life isn't fair, so who knows? Next.
Anybody else?
I feel like we talk so much, right?
Huh?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Oh, great. Yeah. Open those floodgates.
Great cast of comedic actors. There were so many performers in that movie, and honestly, it is the better of the Jim Carrey sequels without Jim Carrey. It's certainly better than Son of the Mask and better than Ace Ventura Jr. How was it working on that movie with so much comedic talent?
By the way, can I just say something from an objective perspective? Can you even tell that Eric wasn't Jim Carrey at some point? I forgot that it wasn't Jim Carrey. I really did.
I saw it in theaters. Like,
Jesus, I owe you $13.
Also, by the way, I was a little freaked out. So I'm married to his brother, and so we were visiting his parents, and I went down to the basement, and there was this life-size poster of him as Lloyd, like this, and just walked down the stairs. I was like, oh, jeez.
My mom stole,
Just
my
like
mom
missing
stole
half
it
a
from
suit.
a theater. She actually didn't steal it. She asked if she could have it, and
course
then
she
they
did,
gave it
'cause
to her.
Jeannie Bean
But
would
the
never
idea
steal.
of my mom, who's this wonderful Midwest non-denominational chaplain, like running out of the theater, stealing a cardboard cutout of me, makes me laugh so hard. Listen, I think that it's so... This is why we're all here, is it's so hard to make good entertainment. I mean, all it takes is one person to screw up and the whole thing falls apart. And I think that is an example, that movie is impossible to live up to, because Dumb and Dumber is one of the greatest buddy comedies in the history of cinema. Like, that movie holds up. You watch it and you go, my God, Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels are pitch perfect. You love them, you root for them. I think it's a definition, as we talked about before, of a character whose perspective on the world is so strong that you're like, this is absurd. And then there's a moment when he's humanized, when Jim Carrey says, I'm sick of being a nobody, and I'm sick of having nobody.
Oh,
and then
makes me cry.
in that moment, you're like, these ridiculous cartoon characters, I sympathize. These are universal themes, and we're with you. And for the rest of the movie, you go down this rabbit hole of nonsense. So I think when they said they're making this movie, I was like, this is the worst idea I've ever heard. And then I booked the movie and I was like, yes! And then I go, oh my God, this is still the worst idea ever made. And I felt like, throughout that whole movie, all I wanted to do was make him happy, is to just do justice to what he did, because I grew up such a fan of his. And then I remember watching, some late night show where they asked him about it. He's like, all I see is the pigs. I'm so remembering this moment. All I can see is the pigs at the trough of my hard work or something. And I felt like, oh my God, I'm so heartbroken. But then his manager came up to me at a party like a couple months after the movie came out and said something like that Jim had seen the movie, and at some point in time he stopped forgetting that it wasn't him. And that for me was like, I slept for the first time in a month. Because it was all I wanted to do is make that guy happy, because he was, and still is, a legend, a genius.
I think the scene in the house bathroom with Bob Saget screaming about not
They're all over the walls, yeah.
Yeah, I think that scene on its own made me laugh more than the actual Dumb and Dumber sequel that came out.
Well, I won't touch that one. That's a very nice compliment. That is a very funny scene. That is a very funny scene. Yeah, I mean, the parts of it are really funny. And Derek Richardson, who played Harry, is still one of my best friends. And Bob Saget, and we had Sherry O'Terry. We had who played the principal? Eugene Levy. Like, we had so much fun making that movie, but we all knew we were doomed. I mean, just like, you put a target on my back and then just go for it, kid, run. I'm just like, just looking back, waiting for the shot to come.
It's a good pleasure. I saw.
Yeah, no, I've made a lot of those guilty pleasure movies. There's a lot of, before I did the TV show,
You owe a lot of people a lot of money.
I owe a lot of people a lot of money. Like Beer Fest and Fired Up and None Other TV.
Fired Up is really fun.
I like Fired Up.
Fired Up is actually
really
Fired Up is
fun.
actually really funny. That's a funny movie, and that was really fun to make.
One of the greatest things about you is you have the capacity of having chemistry with almost everybody that you act beside.
Oh,
And
that's
not a lot of
A
people
really
have
nice
that.
compliment.
That's
I'll
true
take
though. He's adapt man here. If you were a superhero, you'd be adapt man.
it. I'm not sure what that means. What's adapt? Like adapt?
You adapt to any situation. and
Adapt
to every
man.
person.
So-
adapt man.
So it's a noun and a verb. and an adjective.
Sure.
She's not sure.
I was like, wait.
How do you think that NCIS has changed your lives?
Well,
I mean, hers is really simple. It's pretty much everything in life has changed.
well, for what I turned 25 in season 1, and now I'm 33. I met my husband. I had my child. I got married. I had a second child. I bought my first house. Sold that. Bought a second house. And my entire life happened on the show.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Free shower with every interview.
It's just a little
Legionnaires
fungus
disease.
or something in there.
It's totally Legionnaires disease.
It's okay, guys. I'm just getting syphilis over here.
Why is there syphilis? The
I didn't put it there.
cast of Riverdale is hanging out upstairs. I have never seen the show. I just thought it'd be really funny. I have no idea who's on the show. It's just the first name that came to mind. I would have made an OC joke, but those kids got fired. So, I did it again. Oh, this is why I shouldn't do interviews. Wait, hold on. I have an answer. What was the question? Stalling. Oh yes, the show. How has it changed? I have a really interesting
also got
perspective
married.
on this. Right, but
Two kids.
but before that, so I essentially did 8 years of TV and film before the show. And listen, if you're working, which is the greatest pleasure of all time, you're gone 6 months out of the year. So I would be shooting in, all over the world, and then you come home and you audition, and then you book a movie and you go back to someplace else. It's a really difficult way to have a family. So when I said, when I met Sarah, my wife, and I was like, this is the person I want to be with, and I want to raise a family, and I
But
don't
you met
want
on
to
a show together.
which we met on a TV show together. I want to raise a family. I was like, how do I stay in LA and do that? And they were like, there's this show called NCIS LA, and I go, never heard of it. And they were like, it's the #2 show on the planet. I was like, what's #1? They said NCIS LA or NCS. I was like, never heard of it. And I was like, is it comedy? Is it drama? What is it? And they were like, well, actually, they're casting a role for one of the new leads. His name is Victor Cruz. And he's a
Supposed to be
East
a
LA
Latino character
East
first.
LA Latino street cop. I was like, I'm perfect for it. Send me in there.
Who,
And
by
so
the
I
way,
went-
was supposed to speak fluent Spanish.
Yeah, I don't speak fluent anything. I can barely speak English, obviously. So I was just like, but this shoot's in LA, and I remember the audition scene was like me talking about a motorcycle with Kenzie. And everybody else they had auditioned for this part had a chemistry with her, but they finally
No,
just gave
had
up on it.
chemistry read with me.
Yeah, what did I say?
You just said chemistry.
Chemistry read with her. So they would bring in and they'd be like, hello, you're so pretty. And then you would say your lines, and they're like, this is
Sounded nothing like that. You're so pretty. Apparently they're Russian.
the Russian
But must
East LA
speak
street
Spanish
cop.
in the East LA.
I'm derailing this story.
This is my life with him on the set. in a way.
So I came in and did my audition, and the showrunner, Shane, looked at me, he's like, I feel like there's more you want to try. And I was like, well, we can do two things. We can, do the words on the page, or I can kind of figure out the character. And he goes, give it a shot. Do whatever you want to do. And so I made up a monologue, like a full speech in the audition, improv, about her and prior boyfriends, and just kind of pinning what this relationship looks like and who she is based on, the stuff that I had read. And he just looked at me after we're done. He's like, okay. And they sent that to the studio, and the studio was like,
No, but he's supposed to be Latino.
he was supposed to be a Latino street cop from East LA. But they brought me on board for a couple episodes to see if it worked. And then I went off and shot The Thing instead of finishing the show. But they brought me back for the second season, and that has been life-changing because I get to be in LA. I get to do drama and comedy. Drama, comedy, and a love story, which is kind of what you can... what's your...
And action.
Yeah, action, comedy, drama. I get to do it all on the show. And do undercover, characters that are ridiculous. So.
You gained a sister.
And I gained a sister-in-law, which is really exciting. It's been awesome. It's been a wonderful experience, and all my friends that are off shooting films, I don't have any pangs of jealousy for them flying to, Estonia.
What's wrong with Estonia?
I love Estonia. Are you from Estonia?
No.
I'm not a fan. I got kicked out of Estonia at gunpoint. That's another story for another time.
What did you just say?
You know, I've never heard that story?
I don't know that I have.
I got kicked out of Estonia with Tayo, my friend
I heard
from
about that.
Nigeria,
Yes, I did.
put into a windowless van at gunpoint. It's a beautiful country. Not a big fire fired up over there in Estonia. What?
Done.
We're done! That's all you get. Enjoy the Riverdale, kids.
Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh.
Just be wary, that has dripped on occasion this morning.
Oh, it looks like it's setting up for
Right
a
on
run.
me. Don't say a word. We'll all laugh together. Danny, come sit here. The waterfall of death. Actually, I read an article on Legionnaire's disease, and part of those are from faulty air conditioners. But mostly in Russia in the 80s. That doesn't look Russian-built.
It's either that or there's an alien up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Table's not melting
Or
yet.
that's
We
the
should
second
be
act of an alien movie. Come, we have a seat for you. Hi. Whatever you do, don't look up to the water dripping. Ow. Hey. I can't stop staring at it now, waiting for it to drop. I was originally sitting here, and they said that the water has been dropping, so I sat over here. But then I felt
Because
guilty
you're the
about it.
Wicked Witch of the
so
West,
now
you're gonna
I told
melt?
you. I just keep staring at it like it's not there.